Welcome back to the NFLandU podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hayden Vassar, welcoming you to Friday's episode, October 11th. Yep, had to look at the piece of paper before I could say that with confidence. And we got a show for you today. That's just it. It's just a show. I can't say it's great. Just being honest with you, it's just a show today. We really don't have a lot to get to. We really just have the game recap and game previews. Not a whole lot happened with news this week. And yeah, that's really it. We don't have a whole lot. I hate to tell you that. Hurts my soul, but it's true. So why not get right into the action? Let's start talking about last night's game, the Giants and Patriots. Patriots win this one 35-14. Patriots improved to 6-0 on the season, still undefeated, and the Giants fall to 2-4. I think, yeah, the Giants have now lost two straight. This was a really, really weird game. I didn't watch most of it. I had it on, and I had the entire game on for the entire time it was on. But it was mostly background noise for me while I was doing other stuff. It was a weird game. The score is not indicative of what this game was. I mean, it was still 21-14 going into the fourth quarter, and then the Patriots go on a 14-0 run in the fourth quarter to basically ice the game. It was a really weird defensive heavy matchup, and that was evident from the beginning. The Patriots defense, not just defense, their special teams, which has also been a major disruptive force for other teams. Gets a blocked punt return for a touchdown in the first quarter by Chase Winovich from Michigan, the rookie out of Michigan. Then in the second quarter, it just became a back-and-forth scoring fest. Daniel Jones hit Golden Tate for a 64-yard catch-and-run touchdown run. And that was really the only major offense for the Giants last night. They were just getting flummoxed from everywhere by the smothering Patriots defense. And that was the only points the Patriots defense gave up all night. Because then right before halftime, Tom Brady gets hit, fumbles the ball, and the Giants pick it up, run it back for a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's tied 14-14 with like 2 minutes left in the first half. Tom Brady goes on a big-time touchdown drive, hits one of his two rushing touchdowns for the night from the 1 yard line. First quarterbacks, I'm sorry, I misstated that. He's the oldest quarterback in the Super Bowl era to score two rushing touchdowns in a game because he's 42 years old. He's an old man, but he's still better than like 20 other quarterbacks in the league, which is very sad. This was Brady's first game with two rushing touchdowns since 2011. He had two on the night. And that first one in the first half put the Patriots up 21-14 going into halftime. And watching it was weird because neither offense had really played well up until that point. The Giants were just injured everywhere across the entire offense. They didn't have Saquon Barkley. They didn't have Wayne Goldman, so they were basically entrusting everything to a third-string running back. Sterling Shepard, their number one wide receiver, was out with a concussion. Evan Ingram, their starting tight end, was also out. I think he had a hamstring injury, so the only normal starting player in the lineup was Golden Tate. And he had a pretty good night. He went 6 catches, 102 yards, and 1 touchdown, but most of that came off, the 64-yard touchdown catch and run. But going into halftime, for the Giants, you have to feel, they had to feel pretty good going into halftime, It's 21-14. You're very much in the game, even though you haven't been playing well, and their defense was getting after Tom Brady in this game. That offensive line is still a problem for the Patriots. It was last year, but the Patriots had solved that last year by doing a bunch of more quick throws. They weren't doing that a whole lot last night, and Tom Brady was getting hit. And he's old now. He can't be getting hit this often. He got sacked 3 times in this game. It felt like he got hit a lot more than that, though. And the third quarter rolls around, and it's just more of the same. Neither offense really doing anything. A scoreless third quarter. But then, like I mentioned, the fourth quarter comes in, and the Patriots go on a 14-0 run. There's a fumble return for a touchdown by the Patriots defense, who has just been playing godly football. I'm telling you, this defense is good, even though they haven't played anybody yet. This was supposed to be the best offense that they've played, and they dominated them, even though the entire starting lineup is out. And then I think it was like one more rushing touchdown by Brady in the fourth quarter, and that just iced things. And that got you the final score, even though it was still a one-score game up until like the halfway point of the fourth quarter. Brady finished his night 31-41, 334 yards, an interception, 3 sacks, but 7 rushes for 6 yards and 2 touchdowns. Julian Edelman was the Pats' best wide receiver last night, 9 catches, 113 yards, and an absolute beauty of a stretching jump catch late in the fourth quarter by Edelman. It was like a nice little 20-plus yard reception. Oh, it was beautiful by the little guy. Gronkowski called him a squirrel early in the pregame show on Fox. That was pretty funny. Another note by the Patriots. Josh Gordon got hurt in the second quarter trying to stop the Giants on their fumble return for a touchdown, and he left the game, and then he didn't come back. They're saying it was a leg injury. They sound hopeful that it's not too serious, but the Patriots are banged up in the offensive side of the football. Rex Burkhead, their running back, missed last night with an injury. Josh Gordon left with an injury. He was already banged up going into last night. We know Julian Edelman is still nursing a chest injury. Philip Dorsett, another one of their wide receivers, missed with, I think it was a hamstring injury. Just the Patriots are banged up offensively. And I think I mentioned this last week on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday when I said it, actually. That the Patriots could be in the market for a wide receiver before the trade deadline on October 29th. And you know what wide receiver makes a lot of sense? And I know people don't want to hear this because it pushes the Patriots back into being a guaranteed Super Bowl winner. Stephon Diggs makes a lot of sense for the Patriots to trade for. I'm just saying. It makes a ton of sense. But back to this game. The Patriots defense dominated just throughout the entire night, and they were the only constant in this game. Generated four turnovers and gave up only 213 yards and only allowed 1 touchdown on the entire night. It was really kind of a fluke play by Daniel Jones to Golden Tate. This defense is basically averaging giving up like 7 to 8 points a game. They're putting up historically great numbers right now. Daniel Jones finished his night 15 of 31, 161 yards, got the 1 touchdown from Golden Tate we mentioned, and 3 interceptions from Daniel Jones and got sacked once. Golden Tate was the only Giants offensive playmaker that was worth a darn last night. 6 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. The Giants were just severely undermanned, and I was really impressed with how they went in there and stayed competitive. I really don't believe in their defense. They've given up, including last night, they've given up over 400 yards in 4 of their 6 games so far this season. Their defense isn't good, but they can rush the passer. They're actually they're an above average pass rushing team, stunningly, even though they are pretty bad at every other defensive category. I was really impressed with how the Giants hung in there, being so severely undermanned on the road against the team that is more than likely going to be in the Super Bowl. I was really impressed with the Giants. They're going to be a very up and down team this year. They're going to ride with Daniel Jones, and if he plays bad, they're going to lose. And if he plays great, they're going to win. It's as simple as that. He's a rookie. So he's going to make mistakes, and you can't fault him for going into New England and looking bad against the Bill Belichick defense. You can't fault the kid for that. You just can't. Bill Belichick will make anybody look stupid. And he made Daniel Jones look stupid last night. It ain't the kid's fault. It's just Belichick's probably arguably the greatest coach the NFL has ever seen. He's up there. At bare minimum, he's top 3. But like I said, this game was just really weird. It was one of those super weird Thursday night football games. And as much as I said the offense for the Patriots didn't work last night, especially in the first half, in the second half, they got things rolling just a bit more. But the main thing, in my opinion, that won this game, besides the defense for the Pats, it was the time of possession. By the time the fourth quarter came around, the Giants' defense was absolutely tired. Those guys had been on the field the entire night and were tired. And it's no wonder that they just couldn't stop the Patriots when it mattered. Look at this time of possession in comparison. The Patriots had the ball for a total of 39 minutes and 36 seconds. 39 minutes and 36 seconds, all right? You know how long the Giants had the ball for? 20 minutes and 24 seconds. They nearly doubled the Giants' time of possession. That defense was absolutely gassed. And that defense was keeping the Giants in it in the first half, and it was just way too tired in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, to do anything. And you just feel bad because it was such a good defensive effort from a team that's been getting gashed all season long. It just got wasted on them because their offense couldn't do anything. It was a sloppy game. There were 6 total turnovers, 4 from the Giants, 2 from the Patriots. It was a sloppy game that the Patriots just came out and dominated in the second half. Like I mentioned, keep an eye on the Patriots. They might trade for a wide receiver come trade deadline. Their offense is sloppy. I really don't believe in their offensive line. If they have to block for more than just a couple seconds, I think Tom Brady's in trouble. But that was a problem they had last season, and they overcame it then, so they'll overcome it again. They'll just go back to doing super quick throws. It's what they did last season. They'll do it again. And their wide receiver core is hurt right now. They'll overcome that too. I was one of the people last season that was screaming that this Patriots team isn't that good, that their offense is overrated, and that it will get them beat in January football. And then what do? They go on and win the Super Bowl. So their offensive struggles do not matter. It does not matter that they're playing teams that are better than them in every single facet of the game. They'll just win anyway because it's the Patriots. And like I said with the Giants, they're going to be an up-and-down team all season long. It's just what happens when you ride with a rookie. Daniel Jones already has, I think, 6 turnovers on the season so far, and he's only played in 3 games, right? 1, 2, 3... No, 4 games. 4 games and like 6 turnovers. A bold prediction, I think Daniel Jones will lead the league in interceptions by the time the season is over. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I'm pretty sure Eli Manning led the league in interceptions after his rookie year. He's going to be a rookie and he's going to make mistakes. So please, everybody on Twitter, stop giving a referendum at the end of Daniel Jones every single game on whether it was okay that we booed him when he got drafted or not. Can we please stop doing that? Because it's getting old very fast. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. I think he could play in this league. And I think he's already better than a fair number of other starting quarterbacks in the league. So, once again, Patriots win this one 35-14. Patriots, only undefeated team left in the AFC. Giants fall to 2-4 and have lost 2 straight. And they get a couple days off because they were on Thursday Night Football, and they really need it. Hopefully they can get healthy because when they're fully healthy, they got a lot of weapons that they can throw to. All right, so that's our recap portion. Now we're going to move into the preview portion of today's podcast. Got a couple teams on bye this week. Bills, Colts, Raiders, and Bears all on a bye this week. Most we've had so far, actually. And thankfully, whoever made that horrific schedule last week where it was like 10 early games and 2 late games was hopefully fired. Because it seems like the schedule eased out a bit more carefully this time. This time we got like 3 or 4 late games and only like 8 early games. So it's a bit easier now. But first, we're going to go in order, from earliest games to late games. And we're going to start with the earliest of games this Sunday. Panthers at Buccaneers, the 3-2 Panthers at the 2-3 Bucks. It's in London, and we're going back to the London games that start at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. If I'm remembering correctly, this game is only on the NFL Network, so if you don't got the NFL Network, you don't got to worry about waking up to watch it. I was really thrown off last week when we had a London game kick off at 1. We've never had that. This is normally what London games do, is they kick off at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and I wake up halfway through the fourth quarter right before the other games kick off. So here come the Panthers and Bucks, and they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. The Panthers have won 3 straight. They're undefeated since Kyle Allen took over at quarterback. And you got the Buccaneers at 2-3, who came off a very humbling loss to the Saints last week, and a real big come-down game for Jameis Winston and the rest of that Buccaneers offense that was riding very high. And you got to wonder, what Buccaneers offense are we going to get? Are we going to get that Buccaneers offense from that 2-week period where they played the Giants and the Rams, where they were lighting the world on fire? Jameis Winston looked like the franchise quarterback they drafted years ago, and he's throwing multiple touchdowns, and he's not turning the ball over, and he's not screwing this team out of a chance of winning? Or are we going to get the Jameis Winston from last week, who you barely passed for 200 yards, and that rest of the offense looked pretty pitiful? Which version are we going to get? Against a pretty good Panthers pass defense, even though Gardner Minshew tore him up through the air last week, this Panthers defense is very much for real. And they can make big plays even if they're getting beat. Like the defensive return for a touchdown last week by the rookie Brian Burns against Jacksonville, that really helped put them over the top. But for Carolina, their main issue right now is Christian McCaffrey. If you haven't been following the news out of Carolina these last few days, Christian McCaffrey missed practice Wednesday. He has a lower back injury from his touchdown last week against Jacksonville, where he leaped over a defender and landed on his back in the end zone. And he's probably got a sore back from just carrying the team in general. He's become an absolute workhorse for that team. The entire offense runs through him, as we've been saying for weeks on this show. And you really got to hope that somebody in Carolina will talk to head coach Ron Rivera about managing his workload for Christian McCaffrey. Because I want to see Christian McCaffrey play for at least another 5 years. I don't want him to burn super bright for like 2 to 3 years and then not be good anymore, because he's just been worn down so much from having to do literally everything on offense. And I hope this doesn't become a new normal with Christian McCaffrey, where he's missing practice, Wednesday and Thursday, because he's just worn out and he's tired and he's hurt. You really hope this doesn't become a new normal, because you see this with guys like Tom Brady, when they're 42, they're missing practice because they're older and they don't have to go to practice. But, Christian McCaffrey's only in his third year. And he's already missed some practice because, he's just been doing way too much. They have, talented backups in Carolina. The backup running back last week, I forget his name right now, but he scored like a 58-yard touchdown run. So it's not like they don't have anybody to back him up. I'm just saying, you have other running backs, use them. Please don't wear out this really good one, because we want to enjoy him for a long time. And he's extremely talented. But like I said, it all runs through Christian McCaffrey. But the good news for Tampa Bay is they still have one of the better rush defenses in the league. They're averaging 68 yards per game, giving up through rushes. So do your absolute best to shut Christian McCaffrey down and force Kyle Allen to beat you. That should be the game plan for the Tampa Bay defense. Do your absolute best to bottleneck Christian McCaffrey. I don't know how good of a chance they'll have to do that, because Kyle Allen has proven that he can throw it downfield more so than Cam Newton did. Because these two teams played in week 2, remember? And Tampa Bay won that one in Carolina, and they shut down Christian McCaffrey. But that also was because Cam Newton wasn't able to really, do much through the passing game. Kyle Allen can do more than Cam Newton did in week 2. Because remember, Cam Newton was hurt. So, a much different Panther team right now than what Tampa Bay beat in week 2. But I do think the Panthers' defense is a lot better than they were then. I think their offense is a lot better. They have the ability to spread the ball out and throw it more so than they did in week 2. And I think their defense is good and their running game is good. I just don't yet buy into Jameis Winston being consistent. And that's why I'm saying the Panthers win this game in London at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm so going to wake up halfway through the fourth quarter and not have any idea what's going on. I think Panthers win this one. I think their defensive run game will dominate. And Kyle Allen will do just enough to keep the Panthers afloat. And we'll see which version of Jameis Winston we get. I want him to be good, but, well, it remains to be seen. But right now, next game up, it's the game you've all been waiting for. I know you've all been waiting weeks for this one. That's right. It's the Tankathon. You heard it here first, folks. The Tankathon. The matchup of the two worst teams in the league. The two winless ones. I'm talking the 0-5 Washington football team going all the way to Miami to take on the 0-4 Miami Dolphins. It's Tankathon, people, and it's coming to your TV 1 Eastern Sunday. Get ready. You know, if I was good at editing, this is when I would add in like monster truck noises and flames going off. It's Tankathon, people. This one's going to be god-awful. Oh, this game's going to be ugly. It was announced a little bit ago Friday by some couple beat writers on Twitter that Washington has officially settled on Case Keenum being their starting quarterback this Sunday. It sounds like his foot or ankle or whatever was bothering him is apparently going to be good enough to play, and that Dwayne Haskins will serve as the primary backup. I think we mentioned it on Tuesday when we ranted about Washington for 15 minutes. Bill Callahan, their new interim head coach, has said that he's going to run the ball more. They're going to really get recommitted to running the football, which I don't know about that. Their offensive line has been bad, and their running game has been non-existent. I don't think this is a good idea, and I really think it'll make Washington worse. Adrian Peterson has not shown the same fire and flair that he showed last season when he showed he still had something. I really don't think that running the football for a majority of your offense will work. Just go back and listen to my rants about Minnesota for that opinion. I do think Case Keenum as the quarterback for Washington gives them the best chance to win out of the three. Out of Colt McCoy, Dwayne Haskins, and Case, I think Case Keenum gives them the best chance to win. But that's not saying a whole lot. I like Terry Maclaurin, the rookie wide receiver, Scary Terry. I think he's a real good just threat in general. He can go deep. He can catch underneath routes. He can do it all. But I just have serious concerns about this Washington offense. That I think their newfound commitment to just being this super duper run heavy team and just being old and physical, I just don't think it can work with the talent they have. I know they're going to get Darius Geis back in a couple weeks, and maybe that can boost some things around there, but just right now, I don't think it can work. And their defense did show some fight last week in the first half against New England. They were getting after Tom Brady, and they might get after Josh Rosen in this game. I just have zero faith in that secondary, which is stunning because they have talent. I just have zero faith in them. You know, Washington and Miami are within the bottom five of basically every single statistical category, whether it be offense, defense, special teams. They're basically two of the worst teams in the league. Miami's the bottom of every category, but Washington isn't far behind. They're usually within 2 to 3 spots of Miami. But I think the Miami Dolphins have been better since Josh Rosen took over at quarterback. And I really think that they've been, just a couple in red zone drops away from being in leads in games. They had their first lead last week. Was it last week? Or I think it was the week before that when they played the Chargers. They had their first lead in the game because, guess what? One of their players didn't drop the ball when it was thrown perfectly to them. But the Dolphins have shown a tendency to be competitive in the first half and then just drop the ball in the second half. I really think this game's going to be a close game going into the fourth quarter, not because both quarterbacks are lighting it up, but because both teams are so bad defensively that they just can't stop anything. It's a case of very bad offenses versus very bad defenses. No, I'm sorry. It's a case of very bad offenses versus even worse defenses in this game. Something has to give. And you know what's really sad? Miami is being bad on purpose. Their front office is doing their best to, make this team bad and tank this team to get the number 1 draft pick. The Washington football team is being bad on accident. That's sad. And that's even worse than tanking, in my opinion. You're trying to be good, and you're just the worst at it. But you know what, people? I'm going to say something that's going to upset a lot of people in that Miami front office. I think the Dolphins win this game. I think the Miami Dolphins in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami win the Tankathon. Or would it be lose the Tankathon? I don't know anymore. This game is going to be awful. This is going to be the worst game of the weekend. And that's saying something, because we got some bad matchups this weekend. Oh, man, this game is going to be bad. I think Miami wins it, though. Because I've seen Miami play more competitive football than I've seen Washington play so far this season. Especially lately. I just can't buy into a single thing this Washington team is doing. And I've treated the Dolphins as a punching bag since week 1. And I firmly believe that they can win this game. That should tell you how bad Washington is, in my opinion. So I think Miami wins this one and gets their first win of the season. Somebody's going to win this game, unfortunately. And that's... I don't know why, that just upsets me. Somebody has to win this awful game. And would they really even be a winner? Because I think we all lose by watching this game. All right, moving on to our next one. Another really not good matchup. The 0-5 Bengals taking on division rival 3-2 Ravens in Baltimore. Baltimore got a big bounce back win last week against the Steelers to improve to 3-2. And my main question for the Ravens right now is their offense with Lamar Jackson. Is his sloppy play going to continue? Because, for the first 3 weeks, Lamar Jackson looks great. He looks like an MVP contender. And that offense is clicking on all cylinders. Then these last 2 weeks happen, and he's thrown a combined 5 interceptions these last 2 weeks. And he hasn't looked great. And last week against Pittsburgh, he throws for less than 200 yards. And Lamar just hasn't looked good these last 2 weeks against the Browns and Steelers. Well, think about that. This is the third straight game where the Ravens play a division rival. That's pretty crazy, huh? Didn't even notice that till right now. That's crazy. But the good news for Lamar is, and the rest of that Ravens offense, they're playing against a really, 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 really lifeless Bengals team. But the bad news for the Ravens offense is that their number one wide receiver, Marquise Hollywood Brown, sounds like he could miss this game with an ankle injury. He wasn't at practice today, and head coach Harbaugh said that he's going to be a game time decision come Sunday. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Will Marquise Brown play? But I think that even if he doesn't play, I think the Ravens have enough weapons, and Andrews, their tight end, and Mark Ingram, who's showing he's still got a lot left in the tank at running back, and Lamar Jackson making plays in the running game. I think they'll have enough to do just fine. And speaking of the Ravens as well, on the defensive side of the ball, I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to really redeem themselves after some really rough games a couple weeks ago. Remember that 2-week stretch where they gave up over 1,000 yards and over 70 points in 2 weeks? Well, you know what? You got a chance to redeem yourself right now against a hapless Bengals offense that is just lifeless for vast majority of games. I mean, we've seen a couple of games so far this season where the Bengals offense only shows up for probably a grand total of 5 minutes in the entire game. So this is a perfect opportunity for the Ravens defense to come out, pound their chest a little bit, and look tough against a very hapless team that doesn't have John Ross, still doesn't have A.J. Green. So just tee up on Taj Boyd. That's what the Ravens should do defensively. Go out and double team him and force Andy Dalton to try and feed it to other guys like Tyler Eifert or whoever else is in that wide receiver room right now. I can't name them because they're so banged up I can't name them. I just can't stress it enough. The Bengals feel lifeless. They feel so lifeless, people are trying to generate content about them, and the only content they can generate is just repeatedly asking, is this team going to trade A.J. Green, their franchise star wide receiver? Head coach has said no. Basically, everybody in the organization has said no. I don't think they trade A.J., but who knows? That's what the opinion is now. 2.5 weeks before the trade deadline. Who knows what it is October 29th when this Bengals team is probably 0-7. The Bengals could be one of those teams that's committing a fire sale on October 29th, if you catch my drift. But I think Ravens win this one pretty handily. This Bengals team was fun week 1, and they've just been dead in the water ever since. They're boring to watch. There's no other way to say it. They're just a boring team to watch, and that's really sad considering I think injuries have torn them apart in the wide receiver room, and especially on the offensive line. And Andy Dalton is just playing really bad football lately. They're just hard to watch. I think Ravens win it, like I said. Moving on to our next one. I think this game could actually be fun, this next one. And I think if you get a chance, you should watch it. Matchup between 3-2 teams. The Philadelphia Eagles going all the way to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles riding a 2-game winning streak coming into this one and are playing some better football. But I think what's going to decide this game is actually the Philadelphia defense versus the Minnesota offense. Philadelphia, not enough people have talked about this in my opinion, has quietly been building up a very good rush defense so far up front. They're allowing 63 rushing yards per game right now. That's number 1 in the league so far according to ESPN. So the question becomes, can they stop Dalvin Cook? Because as we've talked about relentlessly on this podcast, everything Minnesota does revolves around the run. Now, if you were watching the Giants game last week where they played Minnesota, you would have a different opinion because Minnesota came out and passed the ball like there was no tomorrow. Which is going to be a big thing to watch in this game, in my opinion. What Vikings offense are we going to get? Are we going to get the pass-happy one we got last week, where they came out and Kirk Cousins has over 100 passing yards by the time the first quarter's over? Or are we going to go back to that super one-dimensional, predictable Vikings offense that we got for the weeks before it, where they just can't do anything? I just need to see consistency from the Vikings offense. I'm not saying they have to come out and win this game. I just want to see that you can pass the ball with consistency. Be a threat passing. Don't be a one-dimensional run team. That's all I'm saying. And speaking of the Vikings offense, Adam Thielen is apparently sick. He got sent home Wednesday because he's so sick. They told him, don't be around the team right now. We don't want you to get the rest of the guys sick. But Vikings coaching staff sounds optimistic that he could play this Sunday, so it'll be remain to see if he plays and how effective he is. They're saying he's like sick. Like he's like violently sick. So if Adam Thielen is potentially hobbled with illness, the Stephon Diggs re-enter the equation and get a lot of looks. But speaking of the Eagles' offense now, will the slow starts for this team continue? Carson Wentz, if I remember the stat I saw a little bit earlier this morning, I didn't write it down because I didn't get a chance. He has like a quarterback rating of like 50-something in the first quarter, but then his quarterback rating shoots up into like the 90s or close to 100, if I remember correctly, in the other 3 quarters in every game so far this season. So it's not... The Eagles have been slow starting all season long. Even last week against a horrific Jets team, they were a very slow start. And you can't do that against a Minnesota team that, wants to jump out to like a 10-0 lead early and bear down on you defensively and then just pound you into submission with their run game. You got to keep it close with them. It sounds like Deshaun Jackson is still a ways out from being fully healthy for this Eagles team. And Alshon Jeffrey is going to be good to go. And all that. I think this Eagles team is good. I just need to see them just show up a bit earlier in games is what I want to see from this Eagles team. And they're going up against a really good defense. The Vikings have the number 4 total defense, and they're giving up 292.4 yards per game. Just for them, don't leave them on the field too long. If your offense is sputtering and you can't get anything going, and the defense is on the field too long, that's what's gotten the Vikings in trouble so far this season. is when they get overtly one-dimensional and they're leaving the defense out there too long. And they're getting beat because they're tired. And they're not getting a break. But for Minnesota, this is a chance to exercise some demons. Remember back when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and they went to the NFC Championship game? You remember the team they played? It was the Case Keenum-led Vikings. And the Vikings get absolutely dominated in the game. It's a major blowout. And at the end of that season, the Vikings get rid of Case Keenum at quarterback, and they bust the bank to go get Kirk Cousins. And they tell everybody that they believe Kirk Cousins is the missing piece. They need to get a Super Bowl. Well, now, fast forward a couple years later, it's the first time they've played the Eagles since then. And it's a chance to really exercise some demons. I think if the Vikings come out here and win this game, I bet it feels really good to a lot of people in that organization to get that taste of that just humiliating NFC Championship game defeat out of their mouths. But because I'm not sold on this Vikings offense just yet, I think the Eagles win this game. I think the Eagles go to Minnesota and beat the Vikings again. I just need the Vikings to be more consistent. That's all I'm looking for. I'm just scared that the Giants game might have just been a one-off for them. I think the Eagles win this one. All right, moving on to our next game. We got the 4-1 Saints going to Jacksonville to take on the 2-3 Jags. Saints have won 3 straight and are undefeated since Teddy Bridgewater took over at quarterback. This could be another fun game. And the Jags defense could potentially be getting a major boost. Jalen Ramsey apparently had a heart-to-heart conversation with the Jags owner, Shad Khan, this week. And Shad Khan came out and said he fully expects Jalen Ramsey to play this Sunday. The NFL Network has been reporting that Ramsey is questionable with the back injury. So we'll see if he's playing in this game. The Jags defense desperately needs it. They're ranked 24th in total defense with giving up 382 yards per game and 18th in passing defense with 245.4 yards per game. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. The Jags defense needs a major boost, and that's what's been holding this team back is their defense's inability to stop teams. Minshew is apparently been listed on the injury report with a groin injury, of all things. So we'll see if he's any hobbled in this game, if he's holding back some because he's hurt. I think if he's not, being held back by an injury at any point, I think he'll be fine. He's already thrown for more passing yards and touchdowns this season than Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, Josh Allen, and Derek Carr in Oakland. He's been playing great football. Absolutely great football. And I really think he's basically locked up the starting job in Jacksonville, barring a catastrophic meltdown over these next few weeks. He and DJ Chark have really formed a really good connection and have become an absolute threat in the passing game. Leonard Fournette has come back alive with his running game. And I really like this Jags offense. It's just their defense has just not been impressive at all this season. But speaking to their opponent, the Saints defense is almost the very definition of the bend don't break. You watch their defense play these last few weeks since Drew Brees left, and every game since then, you could watch the film and say the Saints defense looks great. They look like a really great defense. They at least an above average defense, and then you look at their stats, and it looks like they're not even close to that. But in my definition, the Saints defense is good, and they're the ultimate definition of a bend but don't break defense. You can rack up yards on them, sure, but they're going to do their absolute darndest to keep you out of the end zone. And I think the defensive coordinator in New Orleans, I'm forgetting his name right now, is doing the Lord's work. He's doing great work with that team right now. And speaking to their offense for a quick second, Teddy Bridgewater is not holding this team back. Any notion of that when Drew Brees first got hurt, that Teddy would hold this team back and they would lose games because of it, I think we can firmly throw that out the window. Teddy Bridgewater is proving that not only can he still play in this league, he can still start in this league. And I think New Orleans is basically going to have to guarantee him the throne once Drew Brees retires in order to keep him. Because I think teams are going to come knocking this offseason with real hefty offers for Teddy Bridgewater to come play. Because remember, he interviewed with the Miami Dolphins last offseason to be their starting quarterback, and he turned him down and decided, no, I'll just go be with Sean Payton and Drew Brees and be his backup. This game could be a shootout. I really think Gardner Minshew is a great player, and he can make plays even against good defenses. Just ask Carolina. I mean, he lit up Carolina last week for arguably his best game despite all the fumbles. And Teddy Bridgewater is showing that he can ball out against anybody. And since he's playing against a not great Jacksonville defense, who may or may not have Jalen Ramsey, it could be a shootout in Jacksonville. But I'm going to do what I've done all season. I'm going to ride with New Orleans, and I think the Saints win this one. I'm done doubting Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and not Drew Brees. I'm done doubting Sean Payton and Teddy Bridgewater. They're going to do just fine, and I think they'll find a way to win this game. Saints have just been flat out impressive. There's no other way around it. Going into a less fun matchup, the 4-1 Seattle Seahawks going all the way to the eastern side of the country to take on the 2-3 Cleveland Browns. Seahawks are riding a pretty good win streak here lately. Have won 2 straight. And the Browns are in the exact opposite end of that spectrum. The Browns offensively are in a very bad place. And there's no one thing you can point to and say, if they fix this, everything would be okay. Their offensive line is bad. Baker is playing bad. Their wide receivers are playing bad. It's just a lot. It's a lot going on right now. The drops from the wide receivers, the red zone struggles have been particularly frustrating for this team. And that's not all on Baker. Like on Monday night, they were targeting recently returned from suspension wide receiver Antonio Callaway, who's finally back with the team, and it's his first week back, and maybe you don't target that guy so many times in the red zone. Maybe you target the guy you traded for in the offseason in Odell. I'm just saying. But if I'm the Browns, and the Browns are convinced they can win right now, go out and trade for Trent Williams. The Washington football team's left tackle that is still in his holdout and doesn't want to report to the team. Go to Washington and say, because Cleveland's not interested in the days of Cleveland being a top 10 draft team and just building up draft picks and building up for years. Those days are over. This team is designed to win now, and that's a win now move. Go and trade for a starting left tackle and give Baker Mayfield some help, because this is getting ridiculous. Dude is feeling ghost pressure. And that's pressure that isn't really there, but he's so scared because his offensive line isn't blocking for him at all. He feels pressure that isn't there. And it's weighing on him, and it's making him do bad decisions. Go get this guy some help. This team is only going to get worse if this continues. The Browns are just in a very bad place offensively. I mean, they had Baker Mayfield threw for 100 offensive passing yards Monday night? That's bad. That's real bad. And I know he can play a lot better than that. But on the opposite end of the spectrum are the Seahawks, who are playing at a very high level offensively right now. Their offense is a top 10 offense in terms of points, yards per game, passing yards per game. The only part of their offense that isn't in the top 10 is their rushing offense, but that's like 12, 13, so it's right on the verge of that. Their offense has been good, and Russell Wilson has been playing with his hair on fire. He's been playing at an MVP level so far this season, and I feel like he hasn't gotten enough love. And that might be because he hasn't been playing in enough, primetime games lately. We only saw him on primetime on, Thursday night. But that should be, more than enough for some people. But it feels like not enough people are still talking about how great he's playing right now. Conversely, the Seahawks are playing middle of the pack in terms of defense. They're right around 18th or 16th in terms of total defense. And I still have questions about them. They're not the Legion of Boom anymore, and we all knew that. They haven't been that for a while. but I feel like they could get a stop if they really needed it. You know what I'm saying? Defensively. But I think this game could get very ugly. You got a defensive line in Seattle that boasts the likes of Jadeveon Clowney coming out there, going up against a very bad offensive line and going after Baker Mayfield. I think this game could get ugly fast, and Russell Wilson's probably going to come out and still be playing at an elite level. I think the Seahawks win this one pretty handily in Cleveland. And it could get very ugly fast. Moving on to our next game. This one's also at 1 o'clock, if I remember correctly. But if you can flip back and forth between this one and the Vikings and Eagles, you should do that. Because this game could potentially be not only game of the weekend, this could be game of the year, potentially, if things go right. You got the 3-2 Houston Texans going all the way to Kansas City to take on the 4-1 Kansas City Chiefs. A matchup of two quarterbacks who were taken in the same draft class. If I remember correctly, Deshaun Watson went before Patrick Mahomes, like 2 spots. And I bet if it got redrafted today, I think Mahomes would probably go before Deshaun. But I still love both these quarterbacks. But despite, everybody's going to sit here and hype up the quarterback matchup and look at their numbers and all that, this game is going to be decided by running the football. We've talked about it since the Kansas City-Detroit game. The way you beat these Chiefs is you get physical with them and you run the football. That's how you beat them. And you know what Houston has? Houston has the number 10 rushing offense in the league, generating 129.4 rushing yards per game. That's how you're going to beat these Chiefs. You get physical with them, you get up in their face, and you shove the ball down their throat. That's how you beat them defensively. And Houston can do that with their stable of running backs. And they have a plethora of weapons to throw to in DeAndre Hopkins and Kiki Cutie and Will Fuller and Kenny Stills, who might miss this game with a hamstring injury. We'll keep an eye on that. And their tight end, who I'm forgetting his name right now. I think Houston has enough talent to actually win this game. But the key for Houston, protect Deshaun Watson. That is your only objective, in my opinion. Try to run as much as you can, but protect Deshaun. It has become apparent when Deshaun is not under heavy pressure, he will slice and dice teams up. Just ask the Falcons last week. Deshaun Watson did not get sacked once, and he threw for 5 touchdowns. But when he gets sacked 6 times, like he did against the Jags, I think. Was it the Jags or was it a different team? Anyway, when he gets sacked 6 times, he barely throws for 200 yards. So protect him and everything will be okay. That's all I'm saying. I'm not really sold on the Texans defense. Their stats say they're slightly above average, but I haven't really seen them play too well defensively. So we'll see how they do in this game. Deshaun Watson's playing great, by the way. He's playing great football. Patrick Mahomes is in a bit of a slump. And I don't think people are really talking about that. Dating back to the Detroit game 2 weeks ago, Deshaun Watson has only thrown 1 passing touchdown. And then you look at his overall stats from the first 3 weeks and then these last 2 games, there hasn't been an obvious dip in production. Now, you could say it's because of the opponents that they played, that the style that they were playing, were limiting big plays. Like Detroit, when they played Detroit limited big plays and forced Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to beat them through running the ball. And then the Colts game last week, the Colts got physical with the Chiefs. The Chiefs were losing offensive linemen. They were getting pressure to Patrick Mahomes, and he didn't have a great night. Now, in this game, Patrick Mahomes isn't 100%. He said as much so far. He said his ankle doesn't feel that great, but it's good enough to go. So he could be significantly hobbled in this game. And there's a chance that the Chiefs could be missing 2 of their offensive linemen in this game, which is great news if you're J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless of the Texans defense to go after Patrick Mahomes, who is going to be missing some of his protectors and could not be as mobile potentially because of that hurt ankle. Yeah, like I said, he's only thrown 1 touchdown these last 2 weeks. He scored 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, but one of them was a rushing touchdown, if I remember correctly. Or it may just be the one. I could be mistaken by that. But whatever. He's only thrown one passing touchdown the last 2 weeks. And yeah, he's thrown for over 300 yards, but I bet even if you ask him, he will say he's not played that good lately. But the way you beat these Chiefs, the Indianapolis Colts last Sunday night gave the rest of the league a blueprint on how to beat the Chiefs. You get overtly physical with them at the line of scrimmage. You get in their face and you try to make them beat you through running the football. You get Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable, you get him scrambling, and you force him to run the football a lot, which they really haven't shown that good of a running game so far. That's how you beat these Chiefs. I'm really not sold on the Chiefs' defense. I really think it's about as bad as it was last season, and it really wasn't that great last season. They're horrid at stopping the run, but I'm really not sold on the Texans' defense either. As much as we celebrated their 50-point win last week, they still allowed the Falcons to score like 36. So I'm not sold on the Texans' D, and this could realistically be a high-scoring shootout affair where the winner is basically whichever team has the ball last. But I'm not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're in his young career, he's 3-1. He's got a 3-1 record in games after a loss, which means he doesn't lose a whole lot. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one, but I would not be stunned if the Texans win this one. It could be a very big moment for this young Texans team to go into Kansas City and beat a Chiefs team that a lot of people think can go to the Super Bowl. But I got the Chiefs winning this one. But just keep an eye on Patrick Mahomes and see how he does. We'll see if he's hobbled or not. All right, moving into our first of the late games. We got the 3-2 Cowboys going to New York to take on the 0-4 Jets. Cowboys in the middle of a 2-game losing streak where they've just been frustrated offensively and defensively to watch. But for the Jets, they got to be feeling good. They got their franchise quarterback coming back from his mono. Sam Darnold has been officially cleared to play and will be good to go for this one. He said he's not worried about taking any hits and that he's ready to play. And we'll just have to see how good he is. The Jets have only scored 2 offensive touchdowns so far this season, one of which was Darnold in Week 1, and the other came last week against whoever the Jets played last week. I'm forgetting who they played. That's tied for worst in the league. This Jets offense has just been pitiful to watch since Sam Darnold went out. So hopefully they get some fresh life back in there and play, but I'm just not sold on the Jets right now. They just seem such a dysfunctional mess on offense, and I know they had Luke Falcon, but I don't know if Sam Darnold comes in and they're suddenly, great to watch. They've just been horrid to watch. So I think the first goal for the Jets is to come out and be able to be watchable offensively. That's their goal. The Jets' defense isn't great, but they have talent there, and I think they can hold some teams accountable. Like last week, they were frustrating the Eagles in the first half, and they were keeping things close, and then it just got lost in the second half. So we'll see how close they keep it in this game. And for the Jets' defensive line, the good news for them is the Cowboys are banged up on the offensive line. La'el Collins and Tyron Smith could potentially both miss this game. It's sounding like they're both going to miss it, to be honest with you. So the Jets' defensive line could have a big game in this one. And like I said, the Cowboys' offensive line is messed up. So Dak Prescott, could be. I think the solution for them would try to be to throw as many quick passes as you can to try and negate a pass rush. And maybe Ezekiel Elliott isn't, coming out of the backfield to catch balls as much and is more of a blocking running back, protecting Dak. But speaking of the Cowboys' defense, that entire defense needs to step up. They have not been good so far this season. I know a lot of the focus has been on the offense. Their defense has played bad, especially the linebackers last week. Leighton Vander Esch got flat out embarrassed last week by the Packers. And Jalen Smith has just not been good so far this season. The linebackers, the defensive line, especially DeMarcus Lawrence, who they broke the bank for and had been, their most consistent pass rusher since DeMarcus Ware was in Dallas years ago. he's had a frustratingly slow start to the season, and it's just not been a good product by the Cowboys defense. I think their offense can generate yards. Their offense is in the top 5 of every category in the league. They've struggled a bit with finishing drives, kind of like last year. I'm not as worried about their offense. I'm more worried about their defense. But they might get a blessing in disguise because I still don't think Sam Darnold is truly 100%. He's close to it, but he's not fully there yet. The Cowboys offense just needs to stop being sloppy. Stop with the turnovers. I think Dak Prescott's had 4 turnovers the last 2 weeks total combined. So just cut the sloppiness, and I think the Cowboys will be all right. But if the Cowboys lose this game, which I think is a big if the Cowboys lose this game, I think they officially enter DEFCON territory. Things will get ugly fast for this Cowboys team if they go to New Jersey against a woeless, winless Jets team and lose. I think things could get very bad for this Dallas team that a lot of people are finally starting to see that isn't as good as they thought they were. I think the Cowboys win, but I just feel like this game could get weird, and I don't know why. This game could get very weird for some reason. I'm moving on to our next game, in a game that I think could be very fun in the late afternoon time slot. The 4-0 undefeated 49ers, San Francisco 49ers, taking a bit of a road trip going all the way to Los Angeles to take on division rival 3-2 Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have lost 2 straight, and they're probably pretty PO'd at this point. They've been hearing all this praise thrown on their division rival, in-state rival, San Francisco, and they're kind of sitting there in 3rd place in their division after 2 straight losses. And I'm willing to bet the Rams are a little teed off in this game. The 49ers run game is for real, if you haven't noticed. They have the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They're averaging 200 rushing yards a game. That's insane. And that's how they're going to beat you. They're just going to run the ball right at you. And then their defense is going to play good. The 49ers defense has forced 11 turnovers so far this season. That's tied for 3rd with Green Bay, if I remember correctly. That's an interesting thing because Jared Goff, the Rams quarterback, currently leads the league in turnovers with a combined 10 from interceptions and fumbles. So, in comes a 49ers team that loves to get turnovers. That has a really good defensive line, if you didn't notice, and a secondary that can make plays. Jared Goff's main thing is fumbling, in my opinion. So that defensive line and Bosa and DeForest Buckner getting after him could prove lethal for the Rams, especially in the second half. That's how the Buccaneers iced the Rams game a couple weeks ago, remember? Jared Goff fumbled and it got picked up by Ndamukong Suh and returned for a touchdown. It could be something similar in this game. Who knows? But the main concern right now, besides Jared Goff for the Rams, will Todd Gurley play in this game? If you haven't been paying attention to the Rams news this week, Todd Gurley has missed every single practice this week with a quad contusion. And it sounds very much like he could not play in this game. And the Rams have said that if he can't go, they're not going to try and rush him back. They're just going to try and tell him to heal as much as he can and just be ready as soon as he can, and they aren't going to rush him back. It really sounds like Todd Gurley could potentially miss this game. There hasn't been an official ruling yet, but that's just what it sounds like coming out of the Rams training camp. And if Gurley's out, what version of the Rams are we going to see? They really haven't had a rushing attack so far this season. It's been all passes. But it felt like at the end of the Seattle game, it felt like we had finally unlocked the old Rams that we had gotten used to the last few years. Are we going to get that version of the Rams? Or are we going to get a version of the Rams we got a couple weeks ago where they just kind of seemed lost offensively? What version are we going to get? They've had some extra time to prepare for this game, and Sean McVay has a really great record when he's got extra time to prepare. So it remains to be seen what version of this team is going to show up. I feel like we know the most about the 49ers. We have less questions about them. They just need to play some better opponents so more people start believing in them or they become disproven. But I think the 49ers are for real. And they make the NFC West way more entertaining. And it's because of that, I'm going out on a limb, and I say the 49ers win this one. And it feels weird because, the 49ers are undefeated, and the Rams are riding a 2-game losing streak. But it feels like if the 49ers win this game, it feels like some people are going to say it's a big upset. Mainly just because the Rams have run roughshod over this division the last couple of years, and the 49ers, everybody's been used to them being in the basement of this division. So I think it could finally be a turnaround, and the 49ers are making a case to, be the top dog up there with the Seahawks in this division. I think the 49ers win this one. I just don't know what version of the Rams we're going to get. It'll be fun to watch. All right, moving on to another dud. Like I said, we got a couple matchups this weekend that aren't good. Got the Falcons at the Cardinals in the late slot. The Falcons have lost 3 straight, and they're in a very dark place. And the Cardinals are riding high right now. They got their first win of the season last week, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. A matchup of 2 terrible defenses. There's no way around it. 2 just holistically awful defenses to watch. There's no way getting around it. These teams are bad. The Cardinals' offense could be more dynamic, in my opinion, though, if Kyler Murray ran the ball more, in my opinion. He had like 97 rushing yards last week, but it's come out in the grapevine from the Cardinals training camp that he doesn't like running the football, and that he doesn't like getting hit when he runs the football. Well, in my opinion, then maybe he should have really chosen baseball, like he almost did before the draft. He chose football. And he's a dynamic runner, an electric playmaker when he runs the football. I should know. He did it a bunch in college against my Longhorns. I think if he really ran the ball more, it could really open up a lot of new doors for that offense. But he apparently doesn't want to. I think the rest of that Cardinals offense is just okay. Larry Fitzgerald is still playing well. David Johnson has looked better and better each week. They just stall when they get to the red zone every single game. Every single game, they just stall the moment they hit the red zone. But speaking of the Falcons, Matt Ryan is going to have to put up big numbers in this game just to keep them in it, like he's had to do in every single game so far this season. His defense is awful, and he's getting no help from the running game, so he's going to have to do it all. It sounds like Julio Jones might be a bit banged up. If I remember, it's a hip injury that he's apparently dealing with right now, so it might just be Matt Ryan to Austin Hooper, their tight end, and Calvin Ridley, their second-string wide receiver. Matt Ryan has only ever lost once against the Cardinals. He's 5-1 since he's entered the league, so we'll see if he does well in this game. I don't really feel good about either team in this game. I feel worse about this game than I did the Tankathon earlier. I predicted a winner in that game, in the Tankathon, and I feel like a team's going to win that game. This game I genuinely feel like could be a tie. I feel so bad about both of these teams. I tried thinking about, well, what would you say if the Cardinals win? And I tried thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't feel good about that. I'm like, well, what if the Falcons win? I'm like, I really don't feel good about that either. So I'm just going to say I think the more experienced quarterback wins, and I think the Falcons will win, I guess. I'm really not confident in either answer. This game could be a tie, and I wouldn't be stunned. Oh, this game's going to be bad. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this game no more. The last of our late Sunday matchups before the Sunday night game, we got the 2-3 Tennessee Titans going all the way to Denver to take on the 1-4 Broncos. It's a very odd-looking matchup when you look at it, and this feels like a trap game. Here's why. You got a Titans team, a week-to-week Titans team that came off an awful performance last week, going to Denver to take on a team that's feeling good about themselves. They got their first win. It just feels like a game where I feel like Marcus Mariota would go off. It's late Sunday afternoon. It's in Denver. I don't know. It just got a weird feeling about it, and I don't know why. Neither offense is good, and both rely heavily on the running backs. Phillip Lindsay is the main workhorse in the Denver offense, and Derrick Henry is his counterpart in Tennessee. Everything runs through them. This matchup will be determined by the defenses. Well, not solely by the defense. Denver apparently has the number 7 total defense, giving up 328.6 yards per game, and Tennessee has the number 9 total defense with 332 yards per game. I've been picking on the Denver defense because they had a consistency to choke late in games and give up leads, but they were always, low-scoring games. They were always like 17-16, stuff like that. They weren't getting beat holistically like 35-20. They were low-scoring games, so I guess there's that. For Denver, just don't choke in the fourth quarter. If Marcus Mariota does like an 80-yard touchdown drive in the final minute to win the game, oh my gosh, I would be livid if I was a Bronco fan. The inept offense that is the Titans coming into your house and embarrassing your defense. Oh, I would be livid. But for the Denver defense, just don't choke in the fourth quarter. That is your only priority. Just like you did last week, don't choke. And for the Titans, your objective is simple. Protect Marcus Mariota. Do not let Von Miller get anywhere near Marcus Mariota. That is your only objective, Tennessee. Because Tennessee is a lot like Houston. You protect the quarterback, and he doesn't get hit a lot, and he's not sacked 6 to 7 times a game. Guess what? He'll do okay. I just don't trust the Titans to do that, though. Like I said, this has a weird air about it. It feels like a trap game, and I can't answer why. But I think I'm going to take the Broncos to win this one. They've been my punching bag for these last couple weeks, but they're going up against a team I think is worse than them and the Titans. The Titans' defense is really good in my opinion. I think their defensive line is formidable and one of the better ones in the league, and their secondary is a bit underrated. It's just their offensive line is horrid. Marcus Mariota is a flip-floppy quarterback. And if you shut down Derrick Henry, that offense comes to a standstill. And Joe Flacco proved in Week 2 against Chicago that even if you shut down Phillip Lindsay in the running game, he can throw 50 passes and give you a chance to win. He's not the greatest quarterback in the world, and he's slightly below average, but he's given them chances to win. And I'll take the Broncos in that one. All right, moving on to the Sunday Night Football matchup. I promise this is the last of the bad matchups. I promise. You got the 1-4 Pittsburgh Steelers going all the way to Los Angeles to take on the 2-3 Chargers. Oh boy. Pittsburgh starting undrafted rookie Devlin. Yeah, you heard that right. Devlin Hodges from Samford in this game. Remember, he got his first game action last week after Mason Rudolph got knocked out by Earl Thomas in that game. So the Pittsburgh offense could be very, very overtly simple in this game. Pittsburgh's now on their third quarterback this season. It could be overtly simple for that offense in this game. A lot of simple handoffs to James Conner or a lot of passes around the line of scrimmage. If you remember what Pittsburgh did against the San Francisco defense in like Week 3, I think we could see a lot of that, where most of the passes by Pittsburgh were either at or behind the line of scrimmage, and only 2 of them were completed past the line of scrimmage. I think we could see a lot of that in this game, which could leave the Chargers defense, who has been playing not very well. This Chargers team has just been playing very uninspired football so far, a chance to really tee off on the Pittsburgh offense. Really load up and go after them. But speaking of the Pittsburgh defense, I think they've played better since they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick right before Week 3. The stats haven't really been there, and stats don't really back up this argument. But if you sit there and watch them play, they feel like a different team defensively. Their defense feels like they can shut you out and dominate you and get turnovers. That's what I've seen from this team. I mean, look at since Week 3, they've generated. Let me do the quick math in my head. 1, 2, 3. At least 8 turnovers off the top of my head. At least 8. That's counting the 3 Lamar Jackson threw last week and the 5 fumbles and interceptions by San Francisco. So at least 8 turnovers since week 3, since Mika Fitzpatrick got there. I think this defense is talented, and they're going to come out because they know what's at stake. They know that if they go to 1-5 and they have Devlin Hodges at quarterback, they know that their season's basically at stake. It already was at stake when Rudolph was playing, but now they're basically backed into a corner in a big primetime game with everybody watching. They know there's going to be severe pressure, and I think the Steelers' defense is going to come out and play with their hair on fire, like they have the last couple weeks. I think their defense is better, even though the stats don't really back it up. And they're going up against an offense that played horrendously bad against Denver last week. Phillip Rivers threw for, barely 200 passing yards last week and a couple interceptions. There was absolutely no running game with Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. The Chargers need to get their act together, especially on offense and especially Phillip Rivers in that running game. They've just been out of sync lately, and it's just not working. If I'm the Steelers, I think you need to come out and do your best to limit Keenan Allen, who has just been playing on fire lately. I know his numbers dropped last week because the Chargers couldn't get anything going, but he's still playing well. And Mike Williams, their second-string wide receiver in L.A., he's apparently dealing with a hamstring injury, so he's up in the air for playing. So you may only need to focus on Keenan Allen in this game for Pittsburgh. This could be a very sloppy and ugly game. I think it could be very low scoring. Not because the defenses are playing great, because I just don't have faith in either offense, especially the Steelers' offense with Devlin. I always am pronouncing that name. I've mispronounced it all week long. Devlin. And a Chargers team that I've really lost a lot of faith in. I had high hopes for this Chargers team coming into the year, and I've really given up on them. But I think the Chargers win this one. I just don't see Devlin Hodges going in and doing enough to win the game. He's going to have to come out and make big throws. Because you're probably going to... Because if he doesn't, you'd be asking the Steelers defense to somehow come up with at least 14 points in this game. Devlin's going to have to come out and make some big throws, and I just don't think he can. I think the Chargers win this one. All right, moving on to our last game prediction. Monday Night Football. I know I said last week's Monday Night Football between Cleveland and San Fran could be fun, and I'm sorry. I was wrong. I do apologize. I do think this week's one could be very fun, though. You've got the 2-1-1 Detroit Lions going all the way to Green Bay to take on the 4-1 Packers in Lambeau Field. And this is my last game for you guys. If you need something to watch this game. I think it could be a lot of fun. And you're thinking, what? Why would I watch a Lions game? The Packers have always dominated the Lions, especially lately. Well, guess what? As the great Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. You're wrong on this. You know why? Do you know the last time the Green Bay Packers beat the Detroit Lions? Care to take a guess without Googling it? Well, if you don't want to guess, I'll tell you. It was January 1st of 2017. Think about that. So week 17 of the 2016 season was the last time the Packers beat the Lions. That means they have played 4 times since then, twice a year. So 2 years and 4 games since the last time the Packers beat the Lions. Lions have won each game since. And the last time these two teams played, it was a 30-0 blowout. The Lions have gotten the better of the Packers in the last few years. And yeah, those Packers teams are not as good as the one we have now. But guess what? Those Lions teams that beat the Packers are not as good as the Lions team we have now. Greg Rosenthal of the NFL Network and the Around the NFL podcast said last week that he genuinely missed the Lions. He felt the NFL was a little boring without the Lions last Sunday. And you know what? He was right. The Lions these first couple of weeks have been fun to watch. They really have. This weird little scrappy team that nobody really thought much of has been fun. I really like this Lions team. Their defense has swagger and they feel disrespected because nobody's paying them any attention. especially after they beat the Eagles, especially after they limited Patrick Mahomes. That was the last time we saw this Lions team, was that heartbreaking loss to the Chiefs where the Chiefs scored the last-second go-ahead touchdown. And where Matthew Stafford outdueled Patrick Mahomes. Yes, you heard that correctly, and yes, he did. You can go look at the numbers, and you can go watch the game. Matt Stafford has been playing really great football and has been flying under the radar these first couple weeks. We didn't talk about the Lions last week because they were on a bye. Well, they're back this week, and they got a division game against the Green Bay Packer team that I think they can beat. Here's the thing with the Lions. The Lions said all offseason that they want to run the football. They want to be a run-first team and play good defense. Well, the first couple weeks came and went, and the Lions kept trying and trying and trying to run the football, and it just wasn't working. And Matthew Stafford was having to bail them out through the air game with Kenny Golladay, Marvin Harrison, and T.J. Hawkinson. Oh, and Danny Amendola's there too, by the way. Just by the way. But guess what happened in week 4? I had to count in my head. Week 4 when they played the Chiefs. The run game exploded because they were playing a bad run defense. And Kerryon Johnson had over 100 rushing yards and looked great. And it's what the Lions had always envisioned their offense to be. Run the football a lot, take some pressure off Matthew Stafford, and then he'll make some great throws. And he did. Well, guess what? Everybody's pounding their chest over how great the Green Bay defense is. You know what they suck at? Run defense. That's their Achilles heel. That's how the Eagles beat them. And guess what? It's how the Lions can beat them. Kerryon Johnson has been flying under the radar because the production hasn't been there. But it's not for lack of trying. They've just, in my opinion, they've just been playing some solid run defenses. Like the Eagles. They were a good run defense. Just ask the Packers. This Lions team, I think, has the blueprint to go into Lambeau Field and win this game. Especially if Devontae Adams still isn't going to play with the turf toe injury, the Green Bay number 1 wide receiver. I mean, Green Bay showed that they can score points without Devontae. Just ask Dallas. I'm just saying, I think the Lions have a very good chance in this game. If they just stick to the run and the production is suddenly there. But for the Lions, I think it's going to come down to, can they limit Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers isn't having the greatest year statistically in terms of his numbers. It's because they're more committed to running the football. So it comes down to, it's going to be a weird pick your poison. It's super weird trying to stop this Packers team because if you want to slow them down, you take away what they want to do. And what they want to do is run the football. But if you take away running the football, that means they have to rely on Aaron Rodgers to beat you. And honestly, that's the most dangerous option. Anybody in this league will agree with you. They don't want the game to come down to Aaron Rodgers' arm. He may be having a down year in terms of numbers, but he is still absolutely deadly. This Green Bay defense has been good at everything but stopping the run, and that's what's going to determine this game. They can rush the passer. They can play good in the secondary. They can get turnovers. They just can't stop the run. So, if they can slow down Kerryon Johnson, they have a chance. I'm going to go with the safe and easy pick. I think the Packers win. But I really like this Lions team and think they can be very fun and interesting. Maybe that's just a first-month mirage, and maybe they go back to being the 6-win team that we all thought they would be this offseason. Or maybe the Lions come out and surprise a bunch of people like they did in the Chiefs game. Nobody gave them a snowball's chance in hell against the Chiefs. Yet there they were with a minute and a half left in the game with the lead. I don't want to write off this Lions team. They're fun to watch so far, and I hope they stay that way. But I'll take the Packers in this one, the safe bet. And that's it for our podcast. Yeah, so the next time we talk, it'll be Tuesday, and we're going to recap all of this Week 6 action. And hopefully we get some good games out of it. I know some of the games we talked about don't sound that fun, and I know I kind of dogged on them, but you know what? Maybe the NFL will surprise us a bit. Maybe. Just maybe they'll surprise us and we'll get some good games. So like I said, the next time we talk will be Tuesday, and we'll recap all of these shows. Hope you guys have a safe and fun weekend. Enjoy some football. Bye.